Hello and welcome to the audio commentary for Arrowhead Signal. I'm the director, Jesse O'Brien, and I thought I'd put this together just to give you a bit of insight into how he got this movie done for about $600. This opening title sequence was created using Video Copilot's design plugin called Element 3D, and it's a really good resource, Video Copilot. We learnt a lot of our visual effects skills from this free website, and Element's one of the tools used to create great 3D titles. Here's our first look at Reef, our computer and the second main character in the world of Arrowhead. We wanted to open on Reef because at first he just looks like a computer, any other piece of future technology, but it becomes evident later on that he's a major player in the story. This is actually the first shot that we filmed in the desert. The landscape looks very different to what you see there. That's a digital map painting that we tracked in. I designed it in Photoshop, and Sam, our editor, just tracked it in the movement. And I love this transition here. We cut from right outside in the desert, from this CGI spaceship created by Thomas Price, as Kai enters into the interior set. I think it's a pretty seamless transition because of the lighting that we achieved, it really feels like it's in the same environment as the outside. There's a lot of details in this set too that you wouldn't really notice on the first viewing, but if you actually pause it on this bottle here, you can read on the label that it explains a little more about what these pills are. It's a little confusing, the story here, why he takes these pills. Some people think they're suicide pills, others just aren't sure, but it actually says something like take one of these every 10 days as a substitute for actual nutritional food. So it's basically a survival pill that he takes. Ryan, who plays Kai in the film, actually created the music as well, and I love the idea here that he portrays the emotion on screen through his performance and through the music that we're hearing. I love this little piece of music here where it just becomes really gentle and he walks around. This was actually filmed at the end of our first day of filming. Sam, who shot the film, just took Ryan out quickly before the sun set and shot as much as they could, and it became a nice little walking sequence. This scene here is one of my favourite scenes now, but it ended up being that way sort of through chance. We initially cut this scene together without any kind of documentary playing in the background, and I just felt it was a little too boring. So when the idea came up to have Reef showing a sort of an old documentary on his screen, it opened up a lot of different things we hadn't thought of. For example, Reef turns the volume down later in the scene, which shows that he's caring, shows that he cares about Kai enough to lower the volume for him to be able to sleep. And it just shows that Kai longs for another world, longs for history that he can't really get to. There was also always this emotional moment here when he looks at the photograph of this woman whose identity is revealed more in the feature film. But it just needed a little more emotion, and that's where drawing Reef into the scene a little more really helped. The little animation there of Reef's eye was not planned, but we just thought it added a little more humanity to him as well. It was a really simple 3D animation that I did myself. I'm not really a 3D artist at all, but it was pretty easy to learn how to do that. That matte painting there is based on a real piece of stock footage, but it was really hard to get the balance right, to get it to match this scene and to get it to look realistic. Here's the first glimmer of hope that Kai has. A lot of this is very inspired by Robinson Crusoe and Castaway and classic stories like that, and we really wanted to show him seeing some kind of ship, as if he's on an island, sort of looking out at sea and seeing a boat on the horizon. This sort of mirrors that kind of thing. It's not revealed whether or not he really does see a ship, but we wanted to show that maybe he did, maybe he didn't, maybe he's going a bit crazy. I love all these little motion graphics on the wrist displays and the screens that we were able to track in. Sam did a great job of tracking those into the movement of the shots. This was actually filmed during our test footage. You notice the scene's a little different to the set's a little different to how it is in the rest of the scenes. Kai's also not wearing his the silver ring around his neck because he hadn't fully completed the costume yet. This is just another moment reminding us that Reef is there watching Kai Using the red light on Reef's eye as well sort of keeps it a little ambiguous as to what Reef's intentions are. But I think it's a little refreshing in the end to show that he's not actually bad at all, he's just a nice little computer. This scene's also something that we struggled with just to get the right amount of monster sounds and to get the window smashing sounds. It was a little tough. We had to go through about 4 or 5 drafts to get it to work and to get it to feel like there was actually a creature outside. But it was a lot of fun. We actually only filmed all the interior stuff in about a day. We started at about 5 or 6 p.m. and just went overnight and finished at about dawn. This shot here is completely fake, completely done in Photoshop and After Effects. Probably looks that way too, but we just thought it would open up the world a little more to see what's happening outside slightly, and maybe make the audience jump a little too. The 3-pronged little light beam on the end of his gun was completely digital as well, just tracked into the shot. And a lot of people think that lens flare there was fake too, but it's actually mostly real. We enhanced it slightly, but the lens flare was really there. On our Facebook page, you can see the logo on Kai's uniform there in close-up. There actually is quite a design to it that hints at where he's from and what sort of group of people he was with before he crash-landed on this planet. That's just one of my favorite shots there, followed closely by the next one where he looks up. I think it's just a gorgeous piece of lighting, all natural lighting as well. And that's the first shot that we put planets into, which we thought really looked amazing when we first saw it. Sam did this. We did the old trick of just raising that little levitation device with a piece of cord and then digitally deleting it frame by frame and painting in all those wind and lighting effects too. Now, going back to the music, I think again Ryan just did an amazing job of the music here, and combined with this great CG work from Thomas Price as well. It just really culminates in this moment where he comes back and he's getting crazier and crazier and he finds his ship destroyed, and the only way he knows how to react is to just destroy things. Just basically have a breakdown. And this music here is a lot different to how I would have probably suggested doing it, but Ryan just experimented and came up with this almost positive sounding rock piece. It reminds me of Arcade Fire a lot, and sort of reminds me of the Where the Wild Things Are soundtrack. It's just sort of happy indie rock, which really works because it's something that you wouldn't really expect to see in a sci-fi film. There's little sparks there too that we added just to show that there's a bit more destruction around. And then we transition again into this interior pretty seamlessly, I think. There's a lot of detail in this scene to make it more destroyed looking as well. You notice little sparks in the background, and then here we see some smoke pouring out of the pipe, which is completely digital, fake smoke. A couple more sparks there. And just doing little touches like making the sparks out of focus if the camera's out of focus just makes it really gel together. A little more eye animation for Reef, which again I thought it made him look a bit like a sad puppy dog there. And this set here is just all inside our apartment. You can see on the top right of that, of Reef's point of view there's a chunk of wall missing that we forgot to design, and I actually forgot to paint it out as well in the mad scramble to get this short film finished. But yeah, we made this set just out of cardboard that we found and really cheap paint. If you can do it in your own house, it's a lot easier to get things done. This was the most difficult scene to film and cut together simply because the weather was horrible. We couldn't shoot this in a desert location for logistical reasons because we ran out of time, and let's just say we had a bit of car trouble. So we had to go out a couple of weeks later into a really grassy, tree-filled field, and we found this one rock, which is actually where I shot my first ever short film, on this rock. And we just framed it the best way we could, but it was rainy and didn't exactly have the glorious sunrise that I'd written in the script, but I think the rainy sort of moody feel works too. And here is a last glimmer of hope, shown on what is clearly an iPhone, but on what hopefully um, doesn't look too much like an iPhone. If you're involved with the story, I think all those little details don't matter as much, because if the story is good, you won't be worried about it, but I guess you can be the judge of that. Thanks so much for listening, and hope you enjoy all the other behind-the-scenes features that you can find on our Vimeo page, and I hope it's been a bit inspiring as well. Thanks, guys.